Tonight, shocking new numbers give a glimpse into the life of a first responder.
They start to internalize that violence is a part of the job because nobody's really listening.
And what harmful substances might be lurking in the air. A new study may have you rethinking your next bus ride. A gruesome discovery outside T-Mobile Park, made right before opening day.
It's very disturbing that this is still here and that this man has passed away.
And there's a new eye in the sky in Snohomish County. The Spotlight takes you on an exclusive fly-along with the Sheriff's Department's new helicopter.
The Spotlight brought to you by Beacon Plumbing.
Good evening and welcome to the Spotlight. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm David Rose. And we begin with a Spotlight investigation after we obtained new data showing the dangers that Seattle firefighters are dealing with while just trying to do their jobs. Their mission is to save lives and protect property. But who is protecting the firefighters? According to their own firefighter assault tracking sheet, there were 135 reported incidents in 2022. These attacks on firefighters include both physical and verbal assaults, threats, and slurs. That number is up 930% from the previous year, with the department only reporting 13 incidents in 2021. The Spotlight uncovered this disturbing trend through a public records request. In the documentation is a statement of each assault incident, written by the SFD member. It shows that some firefighters don't feel safe. They refer to patients as PT in their incident descriptions. For example, while checking responsiveness of a PT using pressure points behind PT ear, PT woke up and swung at me and my partner, and then proceeded to donkey kick me in the thighs. Me and my partner requested PD and gave a report. And here's another one. While conducting a patient exam, the patient assaulted E31 members by kicking his bloody left leg at E31. 3 members were splattered with the patient's blood. Patient also used a variety of hate speech and threatening speech at E31 and M31. Last April, the Seattle Fire Department adopted a new method for reporting these incidents, posing the question, is it the homelessness and drug epidemics that are driving these numbers up, or was it the new system, indicating that in the years prior, assaults against firefighters were heavily underreported? When the Spotlight started researching this alarming rise, we were surprised to find that nobody was willing to talk with us on camera about it. Not the Seattle Fire Chief, not the local 27 union representative, Kenny Stewart, not even the mayor. We did get a statement from Stewart who told us, assaults against Seattle firefighters have been happening for many years, but they have increased in the past few years as our city continues to deal with the homelessness, mental health, and addiction crisis in Seattle. On April 6, 2022, the Seattle Fire Department implemented a new assault and threatening behavior online reporting system to track these assaults, which included well over 100 reported incidents in just the final 9 months of 2022. Although the fire department does not have good data prior to this tracking system, which makes these incidents easier to report and document, the bottom line is that there have been far too many threats and actual incidents of violence against our firefighters simply for doing their jobs trying to protect public safety. In addition, City Attorney Ann Davison and King County Prosecutor Lisa Mannion have engaged on this issue, and they are working with Seattle Firefighters and Local 27 to address our concerns and protect firefighters. In a letter from Chief Harold Scoggins to the members of the Seattle Police Community Commission, he said, encountering combative patients or bystanders on emergency responses has unfortunately become a reality for firefighters and paramedics. The Spotlight found that 2 of the cases in 2022 have been prosecuted as felony crimes. Prosecutors say 12 other incidents listed in the firefighter assault tracking sheet have not been referred to their office by police for a charging decision. Now that we know the numbers, how do we stop it from happening? According to Dr. Jennifer Taylor from Drexel University, the key to solving this problem is the collection of good data. Taylor is the founding director of Drexler's Firefighter Injury Research and Safety Trends Center, also known as FIRST. She has studied the safety culture, mental health, and reported injuries of firefighters and EMTs for the last 15 years. She says there's been a sharp uptick in assaults on first responders nationwide. But when we shared Seattle's data with her, her outlook was not as grim as you might think.
I have no relationship with the Seattle Fire Department. I've not talked with them or their union, Local 27, about these data. I would love to do so, and I think what you found is really important. When I looked at the data you got from your public information request, it had many years of data. And what we saw is that over the years in the past, there's been maybe 10 to 20 assaults recorded in the fire department, and then there were hundreds. And I think you estimated a 900% increase from one year to the next. And so when you were doing your due diligence, you asked the fire department why this might be, and they mentioned that they switched from an email submission system to an online portal system. And they weren't sure if that contributed or not, but I'm saying to you, as someone who's been studying how do we get firefighters and EMS responders to report their violent incidents, whether verbal or physical, I've been exploring different data systems to do that. And so when I see a fire department that's had such an increase in reporting, I've got to think about the mechanism by which people are reporting has got to be a factor. And the reason that that excites me as a researcher is in the whole discipline of occupational safety and health, we've never been able to successfully get workers to report any injury or exposure that they have on the job because they're so afraid of being victimized again for reporting or getting in trouble or getting the company in trouble or having their masculinity questioned or all types of things. And so something good has happened in the Seattle Fire Department where they must have, I hypothesize, they must have expressed to their members, hey, we care about your safety. We know things are getting bad out there. We have had a 420% increase in EMS runs in the nation since 1980 to now, without a concomitant increase in firefighters, EMS responders, paramedics. So we are doing it on the back of the workers. It's basically the 1900s again in the fire and rescue service. So the first thing that I would want is to see a concomitant increase in workforce staffing.
Dr. Taylor will be reaching out to the Seattle Fire Department in hopes of learning more about the new system and the changes that were made. It is important to note that the Seattle Fire Department says that the types of incidents reported in their tracker have not caused any staffing issues, and this year they had more than 3,000 applicants looking to join the fire department. Well, one of the most infamous highway homeless encampments in Washington has entered its final stages of clearing out. After months of promises by government officials and agencies, the Ship Canal homeless encampment is on its way to being dismantled. This week, crews began the extensive job of clearing out and cleaning up the sprawling community located under the I-5 Ship Canal Bridge. The camp became a magnet for drugs, debris, and at least one deadly shooting. 14 people from the camp have accepted connections to housing from outreach programs.
We had to really work with them to understand what's prevented you from getting inside before, how can we work with that and ensure that you get the services and the care that you need.
WSDOT says from the year 2015 to September 2022, there were more than 2,100 encampments in the state. 922 of those sites were in King County alone.
I peeked in a little bit more. I could see his chest was collapsed, his body was decomposing, his hands were curled up on his chest, resting. I mean, truly a corpse, gruesome, awful.
In a week filled with all the fun and fanfare of Mariners opening day, you may have missed a moment of tragedy that played out just a long fly ball away from T-Mobile Park. Andrea Suarez, founder of the volunteer city cleanup group We Heart Seattle, was contacted personally to make a welfare check at a homeless camp near the sports complex. She discovered the body of a man whose remains had been lying there for some time. But as bad as that sounds, Andrea's story really begins with what happened after the police and fire crews took the body away.
I came back today hoping this was cleaned up. It's still here. Human waste, bodily fluids.
One person's trash is Suarez's mission. Her group has removed literally tons of waste left over from homeless encampments all over Seattle. But today's cleanup is too much for her.
Why do people keep walking by this? This is despair. This is terrible. I don't think I can do this. I need to go get the rest of my team.
In this moment, she feels as alone as the man she found here. But as someone who's transitioned dozens of homeless people off the streets, she also knows how important it is to get help.
This is a tough one.
The two began to make quick work of what's left behind. But questions linger. Why any of this was left here?
I don't know where the missing gap is between a police response and a coroner's office and not an immediate call to a cleanup team.
and what more should have been done for the man who lived here.
While somebody is in some office trying to figure out who they're dispatching to clean this and how much money it's going to cost and how much money homelessness and drug addiction costs, it's so much cheaper just to get this guy some help.
The work is wrapped up in less than 30 minutes. You'd hardly know this is where someone died. But Suarez says sometimes she wishes her group wasn't so good at this. There are some things she doesn't want swept under the rug.
We can't keep hiding the problem. We need to show the public what goes on inside those tents. Drugs, squalor, languishing. There's nothing compassionate about letting these folks live on the sidewalks like this. It's devastating.
Coming up, pumping the brakes on one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in Olympia. There have been even more changes to the police pursuit bill. Plus, the Tennessee school shooting could change what kinds of guns you're allowed to buy here in Washington State. A police pursuit bill that would give officers more leeway to chase after some suspects has moved forward out of a House committee. We've been hearing from law enforcement since the rules restricting pursuits went into effect in 2021 that criminals feel emboldened. A group of local police chiefs released this video encouraging legislators to roll back the changes.
When not arresting the suspect outweighs the risk of the pursuit, officers need the option to chase criminals to ensure public safety. We can't allow offenders the advantage over victims to just drive away.
As the Spotlight's Jennifer Dowling shows us, Senate Bill 5352 now goes from the House back to the Senate after some amendments were approved and some removed.
We are conducting an executive session today on two of the most consequential bills in the entire legislative session, one related to police vehicle pursuits.
In the House Committee on Community Safety, Justice, and Reentry, members discussed and voted on the Vehicular Pursuits Bill, which lowers the evidentiary threshold required for engaging in a pursuit from probable cause to reasonable suspicion. It also expands the crimes for which an officer may give chase.
5352 adds two categories of offenses when an officer may pursue: vehicular assault and assault in the first, second, third, and fourth degree involving domestic violence.
Amendments were also adopted tonight, including 177, which would require training.
This has to do with the fact that we want to be sure that there's adequate training for law enforcement officers to, before they decide whether to pursue or not, that they do this self-balance test. And the balance test says, is it safer for me to pursue that offender?
While most of the committee voted yes to advance the bill, two legislators voted no for very different reasons, one voicing concerns over people dying during police pursuits.
Certainly appreciate that this legislation has been narrowed from where it starts. I am still going to be a no today. I think that's the right thing to do here. You know, I continue to hear from my constituents and from advocates who have deep concern about moving forward this legislation.
The other says that the bill isn't good enough, and those who aren't following the laws need to be held more accountable.
We've had children that have been killed because the police were not able to pursue. It is outrageous at this point that our police could not pursue somebody that's driving 111 miles an hour down the road. That should be reckless driving. There should be no question as to whether they could pursue.
Another bill that moved a step closer to becoming law would ban the sale, manufacture, and import of assault weapons in Washington State. The Spotlight's A.J. Janavel has reaction from both sides.
This bill prohibits manufacturing and will result in a direct layoff and plant closure of our facility in Lakewood, Washington.
I don't think that a ban is going to solve any kind of a problem regarding crime in this state.
Our family has to live forever with the knowledge that our daughter was killed, shot in the back while she was running for her life.
Gun makers, Second Amendment supporters, family members whose loved ones have been murdered. The voices of both sides of the gun control debate in Washington. Tuesday, a group of lawmakers debated House Bill 1240, a new law looking to ban the sale, manufacturing, and import of assault weapons in Washington. The bill does not ban the possession of assault weapons and allows for reasonable exemptions from manufacture and sale to law enforcement and the military. Tuesday's debate followed the tragic loss of 6 people, including 3 young children, at a school in Nashville, Tennessee.
I am here making this comment as a mother of small children and who fears every day that moment when my kid is going to come and ask me why they are preparing for the next mass shooting.
According to the National Institute of Justice, the majority of mass shooters over the last 5 decades used at least one gun purchased legally. But lawmakers in opposition of a gun ban say the focus needs to be on mental health.
It's a really sad situation that happened in Tennessee and Nashville. But this woman that actually did the shooting had a plan and planned it out for a long period of time. She had hate in her heart.
Despite some dissent, the vote passed the Senate committee.
It's a step where we're going to put our kids before killers.
Coming up, clearing the air by testing it when people smoke fentanyl on meth or local public transit. Health officials say there's no real threat. Drivers and operators who have to breathe it in disagree. Ahead of National Fentanyl Awareness Day on May 10th, the DEA has launched a campaign to remember the lives lost to fentanyl overdoses and poisoning. Loved ones can upload a photo to fentanylawareness@dea.gov. It will be added to a special exhibit at DEA headquarters called The Faces of Fentanyl. Sadly, the highly addictive synthetic opioid is killing people every single day in Western Washington. Hundreds have already died so far this year. That's why you see more warnings from local police, like this photo from Marysville. An officer pulled this Tic Tac box out of a suspect's pocket. It is filled with rainbow fentanyl. It looks like candy, making it attractive to kids and teens. Some addicts smoke those pills right out in the public, including on local buses and light rail. Operators say the smoke is making them sick and putting riders at risk. As the Spotlight's Alejandra Guzman shows us, UW researchers are putting air detectors on trains and buses to test the air quality.
Reports show drivers have taken time off to recover after inhaling drugs or smoke or some sort of chemical. The one I spoke with tonight tells me he even had to call off in the middle of his shift because he felt that bad. He says while this study is a step in the right direction, it's just that, a step. He says more needs to be done.
A free-for-all as bodies are seen slumped on the light rail and drugs sprawled all over the floor. This is video taken by a train operator in the summer.
You've lost people that are never going to come back to it.
Not holding back is another operator who did not want to be identified in fear of losing his job. Drug use, he says, is part of the daily routine.
I've had days where I've operated a train where it's almost every trip where you can smell, the fentanyl smell. And, somebody smoking fentanyl or meth.
A smell reminiscent of burning peanut butter fills a bus or train cars.
It was like getting hit with a brick in the head, and I was like dizzy, fuzzy feeling. I had the windows both open, and I was in a panic.
He says he's worried about his health and for riders who are forced to inhale secondhand smoke. The Washington Poison Center says fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than morphine, but that indirect exposure from another person or the air is a low risk.
Whenever you have caught a whiff, do you ever call in sick or have canceled your rest of your duties for the day?
Yeah, I have a couple times.
He's not the only one. 52 operators made workers' compensation claims after reportedly being exposed to smoke from drugs or chemicals. This table shows the number of drug incidents reported by bus operators and riders. 493 in 2021, those numbers spiking to more than 1,600 in 2022.
I would bet my life on those numbers being super low still because there's a lot that goes unreported.
Union leaders with ATU 587 representing drivers reached out to transit officials. Together with UW researchers, they're trying to do something about it.
This is a pump that pulls air through this filter device, and this catches anything that's found in the air.
The air filtering pumps will be hidden. The goal, to find fentanyl, meth, heroin, oxycodone, and any other drug, how they impact air quality in the bus, and how much is reaching the driver.
Well, I'm encouraged that they're finally doing that. I think it's been a few years too late, in my opinion.
Researchers say the study will go on for at least 3 weeks. That data will lead to more questions, but hopefully more answers to what both officials and operators want: a safer environment for employees and riders. Those results are scheduled to come back in May. We'll keep you posted.
You see lush forests and pristine mountain passes. The crew of Snowhawk 5 just sees great places for suspects to hide. Coming up, we'll take you to the sky and show you how this new helicopter has helped keeping first responders safe on the ground. This time of year, crowds of hikers start beating a path to the backcountry and quite often into trouble. Surrounding yourself in nature can also mean cutting yourself off from help. And that's where the crew of Snohomish County's new search and rescue helicopter is standing by to swoop in. But they're also helping deputies on the ground catch dangerous suspects.
The aircraft are really force multipliers. They really are beneficial to law enforcement and public safety in general. When I got here, we were flying an OH-6A that was modified for law enforcement operations, and that's the only one left flying in the world. That's a 1966 version, so it's well over 55 years plus. This is a 1989 MD-500E, but if you look at it, it's pretty flawless. It looks almost brand new, and it has very little flight hours on it. We were very fortunate to receive federal grant funds to purchase this one. It increases officer safety by being able to locate suspects at night on our infrared camera and using night vision goggles, all the tools that we'd have on board to keep officers safe. Really be the eyes in the sky.
That's all the time we have on this edition of The Spotlight. Until next week, be smart and stay safe.